Well, it turned out exactly as I expected. He ruled against us on everything. Also, the trial he set down for the period of time during President Trump's inauguration, he really doesn't need to have it because he's going to rule against me. The reality is, I have no cash. It's all tied up. So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab, I can't do it. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account. I have no place I can go take cash out except a little bit that I saved, and it's getting down to almost nothing.
Quick check-in on Rudy Giuliani as his defamation hearing over his decision to destroy the lives of 2 election workers in the 2020 election ended in more disappointment and not enough cash for a taxi out of this town he's stuck in called around and find out.
Jane, given your experience in court, can you just tell us what it was like inside that room today?
His decorum has certainly changed from when I sketched him 44 years ago as a prosecutor. He's losing it. He was wild. I mean, I feel bad for anyone who represents him. He blurts out orders at his lawyers who are at the podium, and he's interrupting all the time.
He's yelling at his attorneys while they're up there?
His attorney's turning around like he doesn't know how to handle it. He's in the middle of speaking to a judge at the podium, and behind him is he's shouting orders. That was the attorney who just quit the day after that. And now he has a new attorney. And so this one tried to speak, and when the judge told him he's not allowed to speak anymore after he had that burst, he started shouting at him and pointing at him, and he said, you'll have to represent yourself if you pro se, but if you have a lawyer, I'm only going to hear one of you.
It's ironic how Rudy, one of Trump's attorneys that defended and offended on his political behalf, is now having trouble with his own attorneys keeping him in check so that he doesn't make his life worse. After his last couple of lawyers quit on him, his new representative, Joseph Camarada, fits in much better because he's got conspiracy theories as an excuse.
And you made a good point before. This is definitely politically charged. Let's make no mistake. This isn't about 2 election workers that were coming out of Georgia working that day. This is politically charged. Let's take a look at who the attorney is who filed the case. Michael Gottlieb of Wilkie Farr. He's got deep connections to the Obama administration. He was an associate counsel for the Obama administration. I believe he also had relationships with Hunter Biden and counseled Hunter Biden on certain issues. So this isn't really about 2 election workers. Wilkie Farr, I believe, is trying to show their tenacity and aggressiveness to their Democrat client base. And it's getting out of control. They will stop at nothing. My client has turned over nearly 90% of his assets. A $6 million co-op residence in New York has been turned over. Countless watches, jewelry, artifacts have been turned over. His 1980 car has been turned over. He wasn't given a fair opportunity to appraise the vehicle. Nobody appraised it. Judge said, turn it over. So it's been turned over.
Okay, so let's see. $6 million residence, some dusty watches, and a 1980 Mercedes. So he's probably got another $141 million or so left to go before he's settled up. And maybe the judge is done with Giuliani's shenanigans because of the year-long delay and attempt to hide some of his assets that'll be on the chopping block. So like the games he's still playing with that Mercedes.
He said, I gave the car away, but he gave the keys without the paperwork. He didn't give the title. So what the judge even said, what good is the car without the title?
Yeah, Ellie, how does that work? Where, I mean, he does turn over his vintage Mercedes, but it's not that it's worthless. It's still a car, but there's no, they don't actually own it because they don't have the title for it yet.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who Rudy Giuliani owes money to. He owes the most to Ms. Moss and Ms. Freeman, $140+ million. Nobody's ever going to be made whole, even if Rudy actually were able or willing to turn over his asset. He would never give them a fraction of what they're owed.
From the looks of his keys versus the paperwork game, Rudy may not be as desperate as he's trying to portray to the public. So just like with those watches, his spokesman recorded a sad video of him having to hand the Mercedes over so that people would sympathize, but never mentioned the game of hide and seek with the title.
I'm here in Miami turning in the mayor's only mode of transportation thanks to a court order compelling him to do so, this despite existing exemptions which should have protected the car and allowed for the mayor to retain it. We were being forced to turn the car over, his only mode of transportation, because of this court order from this totally outrageous $148 million judgment.
So in case you missed it before, here he is looking for sympathy over those watches.
So I'm at a FedEx in Florida, turning over all of Mayor Giuliani's watches and ring as required by a court order in the case involving 2 women election workers in Georgia. This right here, folks, this is the accumulation of 60 years of hard work. Many of these watches hold great sentimental value, and he's being forced to turn all these over under court order. Again, the accumulation of 60 years of hard work, much of it dedicated public service, helping others, right? As mayor of New York City, as U.S. Attorney to the Southern District of New York, as a Deputy Attorney General, as a person who comforted not just the nation, but the whole world following September 11th. This man attended hundreds of funerals for firefighters, police officers, first responders, and victims that day. This is a man who demonstrated courage by running towards the flames. And now he's being forced to turn all this over under court order in an absolute bastardization of our justice system.
And I'm just trying to figure out why the former and now president-elect isn't stepping up to the plate to pay off Rudy's $148 million judgment, since he's gotten to that mess over his decision to prove his loyalty to him. Now, I'm appalled that Trump isn't returning the undying favor of devotion to this guy. I mean, Rudy really did put his dignity on the line to promote Trump's lies.
I assume if she's working for the city of Detroit, that she's a Democrat. Unless you're stupid, you knew that a lot of people were coming over from Camden to vote. They do every year. Happens all the time in Philly. It's about as frequent as getting beaten up at a Philadelphia Eagle football game. Happens all the time. All the time. And it's allowed to happen because it is a Democrat corrupt city. So you see a change as a result of the election in Michigan. If you take out Wayne County, probably the closest they got is from here to the back of that room. We could do like a. Did you all watch My Cousin Vinny? You know the movie? It's one of my favorite law movies because he comes from Brooklyn. And when the nice lady who said she saw, and then he says to her, how many fingers do I got up? And she says, 3. Well, she was too far away. The minute you approve this, it's thrown away, gone for eternity. The only thing left is the vote. That could have been Mickey Mouse. You start doing ballots like this.
Yeah, my man was sweating and quoting scenes from My Cousin Vinny as if it would change something about the results of the election. And by the way, one of the reasons he can't get a taxi is because the guy that he pledged his undying fealty to owes him millions, but still won't pay him. Now, I did hear that the economy will suddenly be booming under Trump, so at least Rudy can get a new job so he can stop hawking products from Mike Lindell.
I've been sleeping on my pillows for some time. I love them. They're simply the very best pillows ever made. But I just found out that they also have a wide assortment of other incredible products like their mattress toppers, sheets, towels, and slippers, and more.